He was just a stable boy. No name, no future, until a cloaked shadow chose him from the dust. Now, hunted by things not quite human, he walks the line between myth and death. The forest whispers secrets. An ancient enemy has awakened, and one forgotten boy carries the flame they fear. This isn't just a trial. This is the beginning of the Ashwood Apprentice. The Ashwood Apprentice, the Chusinth boy, was called Finn, and no one expected much from him. He lived in the stables of Castle Dunharrow, an orphan working for scraps shoveling dung, feeding horses, and sleeping with straw for a pillow. He was small for 15, but quick and quiet, always quiet. Boy called the stablemaster one cold morning. "They're choosing apprentices. Try not to embarrass yourself." Finn didn't reply. He simply dusted himself off and joined the line of boys outside the great hall. They were sons of bakers, blacksmiths, guards, none of them nobles, but none as low-born as Finn. At the front stood Lord Gareth, and beside him, in the shadows barely noticeable, was a cloaked figure with a hood drawn low. A ranger. Finn had heard the stories. Rangers were mysterious figures, sworn to the king, trained in the arts of stealth, survival, and archery. They wore grey-green cloaks and vanished into trees like ghosts. Most people feared them as the lords called out names for apprenticeship scopes. Smiths, soldiers. Finn stared at the ranger. Something about the way he stood, still, watchful, like a hawk ready to strike. "Finn," Lord Gareth finally called. A few boys snickered. "Stable boy." One muttered, "What would he be good for?" But the ranger raised a hand and stepped forward. "I'll take him." The crowd went silent. Lord Gareth frowned. "He's small, weak, half-wild." The ranger's voice was low and calm. "All the better. He knows how to survive." He turned to Finn. "What's your name, boy?" "Finn," he answered, trying to keep his voice steady. "No last name." "Then you'll make one." The ranger's cadet ranger's name was Kale. He never smiled, rarely spoke, and seemed to see everything even when his back was turned. Their camp lay deep in the Ashwood, a forest older than the kingdom itself. No towns, no trails, just shadow, root, and silence. Finn's first lesson was brutal. "Run," Kale said, tossing him a small pack of supplies. "You have until dusk to find the hill with the black pine. If you're caught, you fail." "Caught by who?" Finn asked. Kale vanished into the woods. The wild begins at first. Finn tried following broken twigs and animal tracks, but Ashwood played tricks on the eyes. The trees looked the same. The moss grew in circles. The sun barely reached the forest floor. After hours of stumbling, Finn heard it, a soft whistle, like wind through feathers. A warning. Then a thud. Something whizzed past his head and struck a tree. An arrow. It hadn't hit him, but it was close enough to send him diving. Behind a fallen log. "If I wanted you dead," Kel's voice echoed through the trees, "you would be." Training days after that first test, the real training began. Each morning at dawn, Kale drilled him on stealth. How to walk without snapping a twig. How to blend with shadows. How to breathe silently. Midday was for archery. At first, Finn couldn't even string the bow. His fingers blistered. His aim was awful. But Cale never yelled. He only said, "The bow is your voice. If it's shaky, you're not ready to speak." By the second week, Finn could hit a rabbit from 30 paces. Evenings were spent by the fire learning the Ranger's code. Never fight unless you must. Never reveal your path. The shadows are not your enemy, they are your ally. Loyalty to the king. Mercy to the weak. Death to the traitor. The first Missiono night, as smoke curled over the coals, Cale tossed Finn a sealed scroll. "Time for your proving. You'll take this message to the outpost at Dunmere. 3 days walk. Alone. Don't let anyone see you. Don't open it." Finn swallowed hard. "What if I fail?" Cale stared into the fire. "Then I chose wrong." Before dawn, Finn slipped into the trees, cloak around his shoulders, bow at his side. He didn't know that he was already being followed, and not by Cale. Something else had entered Ashwood, something that hunted rangers. Shadows in Dunmere Finn moved like mist between trees, silent, low, alert. It had been 2 days since he left Cale's camp. He'd crossed a narrow gorge, evaded to highwaymen without being seen, and followed the river north under cover of night. The seal scroll rode in a pouch across his chest. He still hadn't opened it. He'd been tempted. But the ranger's code was clear. Now he stood on a cliff overlooking the valley of Dunmere outpost, and something was wrong. Smoke drifted in the distance, but not from chimneys. There were no guards at the watchtower, and the black flag atop the outpost was upside down. A silent call for help. The broken outpost Finn crept in under moonlight, slipping between shadows like Cale had taught him. His eyes scanned for movement. His bow was strung, arrow nocked. The gate hung open, burned. The air stank of ash, and something worse, blood. Inside. The outpost was wrecked, barracks torn apart, horses gone. No sign of survivors. But in the main hall, Finn found a soldier barely alive, slumped against the wall with a dagger in his gut. The man's eyes fluttered. They knew where we were, how to get past the traps. Who did this? Finn whispered. Black-cloaked, not bandits, faster. Wrong eyes, not human. Then he went still. Dead. Finn pulled out the scroll. His hands trembled. He shouldn't open it, but something inside him said he must. He broke the wax. To Captain Harrow. Dunmere outpost Rusk has escaped south. Hold your position. Reinforcements coming in. 5 days. Do not engage. Ranger Cale. Finn stared at the words. Reinforcements in 5 days? The outpost was already lost. There was no one left to hold. He had 2 options. Return to Cale, report the failure, stay, investigate who or what attacked the outpost alone. The safe choice was clear, but Finn turned toward the forest. He drew his hood, checked his arrows, and whispered the code. Mercy to the weak, death to the traitor. Then he vanished into the dark. Meanwhile, far to the south, in a ruined fortress lit by cold fire, a shadowed figure watched through a crystal lens. Its eyes colorless and lidless watched Finn in the trees. The boy moves well, it hissed, but he is not ready. Another voice replied from the shadows. Then let us prepare his test. The enemy in the woods trail was cold. No footprints, no blood, just torn cloth caught on thorns and a strange black powder in the air like burned ink. Finn crouched low, touching a tree with claw marks gouged deep into the bark. Whatever attacked the outpost hadn't just been men. It was something older. He moved deeper into the woods north of Dunmere, beyond the old border trails. The land was silent, no birdsong, no wind, just trees that leaned inward to close, as if whispering. At dusk, he found a half-collapsed stone altar buried in ivy. Carvings on its face had been scratched away, but he could still make out part of the ancient ranger crest bow across a wolf's head. But this one was twisted, defaced, burned by someone who hated what it stood for. The first fighter. Soft clicking noise broke the silence. Then another, like bones tapping together. Finn spun. Two figures stood just beyond the altar. Tall, hooded, faces pale and smooth like wax. No eyes, no mouths, only thin black lines across their foreheads, markings that pulsed faintly with red light. They moved fast. Finn barely had time to roll behind a tree as a black throwing knife thunked into the bark beside. His head. He fired. An arrow missed. The taller creature lunged, sword flashing in the dark. Finn dodged left, pulled a smoke pellet from his pouch. Kale had taught him to use it only in desperation, and slammed it to the ground. The forest exploded in grey mist. He ran.
If you want to know what challenges are coming ahead for him, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon. Part 2 is coming soon.